right, welcome to the third part of our Pinterest MarketStar Sales Champion Competition training. I'm Dr. Sterling Bone, and we're broadcasting here live from Huntsman Hall at Utah State University. We welcome all of our competitors across our competing universities, and hopefully here in a couple weeks we'll be able to be co-located here and participating in this exciting and tremendous event. We're very fortunate today to have members of the Pinterest team and to provide some training and insight to all of us as we are competing and taking this platform forward in our marketing and digital advertising careers. I'm going to introduce Brian Van Vliet. Brian Van Vliet is the sales lead at Pinterest. He previously worked for MarketStar for 7 years. Brian was an integral part in our developing this competition here at Utah State University. And we're so fortunate now that he is in the Pinterest world to be able to continue this relationship with the MarketStar Pinterest Sales Champion Competition. So on behalf of our Huntsman faculty, our students, and all of you here, let's welcome Brian Van Vliet.
I feel like a motivational speaker with this thing on. Yes, cool. Thank you so much for the introduction. As Sterling said, this is our second year of doing the competition. So we're going to go through some content that's more Pinterest specific than, it sounds like you already did some of the stuff on the MarketStar side. So I just wanted to take a second and kind of kick off and make sure that everybody understands MarketStar, Pinterest, like how this all works, because it probably doesn't make a ton of sense. It's actually pretty simple. So MarketStar is responsible for all of Pinterest's SMB ad sales. So in San Francisco and New York and our other offices, we manage probably the top 2,500 advertisers internally, and then from 2,500 to infinity in North America, those accounts are all managed by MarketStar. So there's nobody at Pinterest nobody directly at Pinterest who sells to SMBs. It's all MarketStar. So we have about 150 sellers in Ogden. That includes account managers, partner managers, which is like our direct sellers, and then the agency team that works through ad agencies. So we launched about 2 years ago in November with 20 people, including Camille. Camille was one of the first people to join the team. And since then, as I said, we've grown from 20 to 150 with MarketStar. And that is because of the amazing work that the team does there. You know, every time Pinterest can invest $1 in MarketStar and get, positive return back in revenue, we're going to keep investing in MarketStar. So Allie's going to kick us off with the content and talk to you about kind of how Pinterest is a little bit different than other social platforms. Before she does that, though, how many of you use Pinterest? It's okay if you don't. Okay, most of you, a lot of you. Okay. One recommendation that I have for you, those of you who are competing specifically, is for sure download the app and get familiar with it from the user perspective. It's a really important perspective to have when you're talking to advertisers. All right, so I guess we're doing the introduction pass off, so I'll introduce Allie. So Allie has run our agency program up until yesterday when she got promoted. So she's now our senior operations manager. So she's going to run all of the stuff besides the sales teams. So any functional areas that we have. She joined us not that long ago. It was like almost a year and a half now. A year and a half ago. Was on the agency team, crushed it, then became an agency manager, crushed that, and then now she just got promoted yesterday. So here she is.
Thank you. Okay. All right, this is like not good. Okay. We're doing okay? Can you guys hear me okay?
So the microphone doesn't actually make you louder.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So that means I actually have to talk loud. Am I in the way here? I'm kind of short, so hopefully you guys can see over me. So what I want to be able to talk you through today, we've got our agenda here. We're going to go over the foundation of Pinterest, which I'll be taking, pinner behavior, which Camille will be presenting for us, marketing funnel, Brian will get back up and discuss through that, and then we'll be able to talk through the template. So this year, unlike last year, we will have a template for you guys to be able to build your proposals off of. You will also receive a media brief with information for a specific client, and then we'll go into a Q&A session.
Yeah, just to give one more context, so we also brought last year's champion,
Yes.
who now works on our team. Right? So these two will be, they both work on the Pinterest team, and they'll get their introductions, but they'll be here for Q&A at the end.
Cool. So going into foundation of Pinterest, we went through, and a good portion of you guys use Pinterest, which is awesome. So this view will be very familiar for you guys. Here on Pinterest, we have 100 billion pins or ideas on 3 billion boards. And, Facebook, you go on and you're looking for friends, right? It's all about social. You're trying to see how cute their baby is that they just had. Really, Twitter is all about these quippy thoughts, right? And then Instagram has photos that you can like double tap and like and be done with. But at Pinterest, we have ideas. So the hope is that these ideas that are leading to inspiring people, that they'll actually be able to act, right? So I want to tell you a little bit about my story on Pinterest. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was coming into the workforce. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 2 years, so my legging and Netflix life was on point. And the only shirts I had probably had like spit-up residue, hardcore, right? So I knew that coming into a professional work environment, I needed to up my clothing game from like LuLaRoe to maybe actually wearing at least jeans, right? But in addition to that, I still wanted to be able to be comfortable. And the biggest piece for me was shoes. Like, how can I find shoes that are actually going to be comfortable all day long? Because I'd been wearing slippers for the last 2 years and didn't want to really give those up, right? So I came to Pinterest. And unlike going to somewhere like Google, where you're going to have to search for something specific, like Nike shoes, and specifically Nike TR7s. If you're going to buy them, TR7s are the way to go. But like, coming to Pinterest, you're able to figure out new brands and new ideas. And that's really what I needed to do. I had seen so many coworkers with these gorgeous shoes that looked comfortable and were still professional and were sneakers. And that's really what I needed for me. So I came to Pinterest, and as you can see here, typed in sneakers for women. It's really, really broad idea that if you were to type into Google would yield tons of different results and a lot of research time with individual links and a lot of reading, right? Coming to Pinterest, you get this gorgeous visual of different types of shoes that you can then go in and purchase, right? So I saw this picture on the left and I was like, yes, that is me. I literally have that exact same shirt. So now I just need the shoes, right? So I ended up saving quite a few different pins around this brand that I had no idea who they even were, right? Like Rothy's I hadn't heard of until Pinterest, but this one specifically is called Greats. So I ended up coming to my board, and I love my husband dearly, but he is probably the world's worst gift giver when it comes to anything outside of like Olympic weightlifting, which is what he loves, right? So I have a gifts ideas for me so that he knows these are the things that you should buy for me. Easy access, he can click on them and just purchase and get it sent right to the house. So I saved it onto this board. But then I was also like, okay, I'm going to come to the website, look around, and see what I really like. And I saw these. I love blush pink. Pink is like my go-to color. I had a pink car in high school. So I knew that these were my shoes. But like at the same time, I'm not willing to spend $179 just at the drop of a hat, right? Like coming into work, I've got 2 little kids. They're going to get the $179 shoes before I do, right? So again, it's just, I'm going to save it on the board and maybe wait until somebody else will buy it for me, hopefully. So then about 6 months later, my husband goes to the beautiful board and ends up buying me shoes for my birthday. And I'm wearing them today. These are my favorite shoes. They're super comfy. Greats brand is this little teeny tiny startup company. They actually started initially on Kickstarter and grew from there. but they make Italian leather sneakers, and they're incredibly comfortable, super good quality, and I have loved having them. So this is what a Pinterest user is going to have as their experience as well. They come to Pinterest, they're looking for new ideas, new brands, new businesses that can open them up to a new possibility, right? So that leads us into pinner behavior. Yep.
There's like a flashing battery thing happening here. So I don't know if it... So hearing Allie's journey to discovering this new brand, what were your takeaways there? Why does that matter? Why do you think she even told you that story?
She didn't have a specific idea in mind.
Good. Yep. She didn't have a specific idea in mind. Why does that matter if you're talking to a marketer?
It's important to have certain keywords that can help people find your brand.
Yes, it helps to scope that, but on a larger scale, why does a marketer care?
They can find you before you even know who to look for.
Yep, exactly. So you go to Google to search for something that has an answer, a specific answer. Like, who was the 16th president? Who was the 16th president? Lincoln, yes. So Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president. So questions that have a specific answer. On Pinterest, you go to search for questions that don't have a specific answer. Like, what do I want my wedding to look like? Or what do I want my apartment to look like? Or what do I want my new go-back-to-work style to look like? That's what people use Pinterest for. And the reason that actually matters, you have a clicker. The reason that actually matters to marketers is because pinners come onto the platform with, is that the first slide? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm supposed to go forward, right? You know?
You want to? Okay.
Yeah, right there. Okay. All right. So pinners come onto the platform with an open mind. They're in a mindset of discovery. They're looking for inspiration. And what that ends up meaning, if you're a marketer and trying to get your brand discovered, is that you can get in front of people in the early stages of the planning process. Which, if you go on and you search for, what were your Nikes?
TR7.
Yeah. So if I'm an advertiser and I sell those leather shoes and I'm trying to get in front of somebody who's searching for shoes and that person already has a pair of shoes or even a brand in mind, moving them off of that brand and changing their mind is a lot more difficult than if you can get your brand in front of a potential customer early in that kind of discovery, inspiration, planning stage. So we're in this unique situation as a platform where we have people who both have an open mind and we know are actively considering. So if you're a marketer and you want to advertise on Facebook, you don't have either of those things. At least you have to just try to predict that the users, the audience that you're targeting, both has intent and has an open mind. On Pinterest, we know what their interests are. How do you think we know what their interests are?
Well, they tell you.
Yes.
They literally put in their interests, they create their own boards,
Yep.
and then you just find things that are similar to that.
Yep. So by definition, Pinterest is people telling us what their preferences are. And in many cases, people using the platform to shape their preferences. And so that's an extremely valuable audience if you're an advertiser, because it gives you the opportunity to target based on what you know are likely high intent customers. So there's two parts of that. One of the parts of that is the intent that they have, right? And they've shown us their intent by either putting in search terms or interests they've indicate or boards that they've already created. We know what kinds of stuff Allie wants for her birthday because she told us by putting in a board called "Buy Me This for My Birthday, Please." And so that's the first part. That's the intent part. Like, we know generally what people are interested in based on what they're searching for, based on what their interests are, based on the opinions that they engage with. But then the other unique behavior on Pinterest that is extremely valuable to marketers is that if you think about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those platforms are 100% about posting things that have already happened in the past. Pinterest, on the other hand, people are saving things that they want to happen in the future. So vacation ideas, remodeling ideas, going back to work and refurbishing your wardrobe ideas. So we can catch them in that discovery phase and get brands that they never even would have known about in front of them and discovered in a time when you really have the best chance of influencing their decision. Does that make sense? Yes, we talked about that. The other thing about Pinterest planning is Pinners plan way ahead. So, like, we start to see a spike in both search and the kind of pins that are getting engaged for Christmas, for instance, like a month ago. And for summer travel, it's like February. And so because Pinners plan early, we are the first people to see, we're the first platform that gets to see what their intentions are 3 months from now, or 4 months from now, or 6 months from now, that they're going to get married or they're going to remodel a house. Again, incredibly valuable if you're a brand who's trying to reach a customer who's remodeling their home. So, one of the things that's happened over the years is that marketers have been conditioned to think of their advertising attribution, which means a customer comes, they make a purchase on my site. Where did they come from? They've over the years been conditioned by Google to think of that, we call it last click attribution, as that's where, so if a customer comes from Facebook and then buys something, then I give credit for that conversion to Facebook. But what we've learned over the last couple of years in the marketing world is that it's a much more complex journey than that. There are a lot of touch points that happen along the way, and it's not just the last Google search that ended up having me buy the product that influenced that purchasing decision. And so, again, if you think about the customer journey as being exposed to a product, multiple times in different places, we're pretty early in that journey.
So my favorite analogy in that is the analogy of when people are going to a movie, per se. They go to the box office to buy. Do you want me to use that? Sorry.
No. I was just.
So when people are going to a movie and you go to the box office and you pay that 14-year-old that you might have a huge flavor loss, you're paying this 14-year-old for a ticket, and last click is essentially the credit for you going to see that movie, not the millions of dollars that were spent in advertising, whether you saw a trailer on YouTube or heard about it on the radio or heard about it from a friend, right? And just giving credit to that 14-year-old sitting in the ticket booth. So keeping that in mind, that you are going to have multiple touch points, and only attributing the credit to the very last touch doesn't actually make sense, because so many other people are going to be touching that person before they actually convert. Does that make sense?
Perfect. So where do those touches even start, right? How do you even begin that? And it's with the marketing funnel. So when my husband and I, we've been married for over 4 years, and we have a great relationship. But one of the very, very first fights that we ever had was when, at the end of my day, I would come home and I would go on Pinterest. And I could zone in on Pinterest for hours. Mind you, I can't play video games. I can't focus on anything else for a long time, but Pinterest was my thing. And in fact, anytime I was upset with him, I would just go on my phone and go on Pinterest and zone out. And it was because that's where I was inspired. And he didn't understand, why I would be so interested in this one thing. But it's because I could visually see what was personally interesting to me. If you think about it, Pinterest, Pinterest isn't where you follow all your friends. In fact, the only person I follow, I think, is maybe Allie and maybe my mom, because they have like ideas, similar ideas. But for the most part, I'm not following all my friends or people that I knew in high school. Pinterest is my place to be inspired, to build my life. And that really describes the funnel. So I'm sure as people studying marketing and business, you know what the funnel is. So which piece of the funnel is the most important? I'm going to pick on you because you were here last year. Okay. What part of the funnel is most important? So top of funnel where you're feeding people in, middle funnel, keeping people warm, or that bottom funnel where people are purchasing.
Well, I would say the top, just because if you don't have anybody coming to the top, you're never going to be able to drill down to actually proceed to get a purchase.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Okay. So what about the bottom of the funnel, where the purchases actually happen?
That's great, but if no one's there,
okay. Cool. So there isn't a right answer. They're all important, right? But you brought up something very interesting. But let's review this funnel. So at the very top is where you're building brand consideration. That's where you're really thinking, the season's changing. Maybe I should look at things to do with winter. And then maybe on the qualified prospecting, which we'll go into, you're thinking, okay, yep, I need a coat. It's going to be cold soon. I need to kind of figure out what style I want. And then where you convert it is where I've said, it's winter, I'm cold, I want a coat, I want it to be stylish, and I want it to be blue, and that's what I want. I want it to be Patagonia, and so I'm purchasing. So as you go on, you get more detailed. But you'll see here that more volume, aka more people, are at the very, very top. You want that funnel to be an actual funnel. You don't want it to be a straight line or fewer people who maybe will convert. You want that to be a true full funnel where you are bringing tons of people at the top, keeping them warm, keeping your brand familiar, and then converting in the end. Now, when it comes to cost or even efficiency, it's actually more efficient to focus on the lower funnel, the bottom of that funnel. There are fewer people who have higher intent, and so it's more efficient to focus on those people. So which is more important? It's all important. You need the volume and you need the efficient conversions. So this is the example where I would even say that when it comes to Pinterest, we're introducing ideas to people and brands to people that they don't even know that they love yet. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, I just bought a home, and I have been introduced to not just paint or furniture, but decorations or styles that I wouldn't have considered because of Pinterest. So even before I know that I want something for my home, or in this example, a winter coat, I'm going to Pinterest and being inspired. So we are the true upper funnel. In the middle is where we're keeping them warm. However, these are qualified prospecting. It's not just people with the idea. So when you think of what Facebook does, they can go after a specific target, saying, okay, maybe they don't want the blue Patagonia coat, but they are in the market for it already, and so they want to keep themselves top of mind. And at the very end, it's people who are very sure of exactly what they want. This is an example of someone who would go to Google and type in blue Patagonia coats because they're ready. They know what they want. And Pinterest also has the ability to retarget these people to get their brand across. So my favorite quote, in fact, I got it in college back in the day. I was presented with an award for saying this was my favorite quote. It's the weird things you get when you're in college, right? So my favorite quote is, you can't score a touchdown if you don't know where the end zone is. Has anybody changed majors at all? Oh, okay, a handful. I was 3/4 of my way through business school when I decided I wanted to do marketing, and at Weber State it was a little bit different. And so that taught me that eye on the prize, you have to know what you're going for. But it's the same with advertisers. It's the same with brands and companies that want to advertise on Pinterest. So you really need to identify what is the end goal with these campaigns.
We'll supply this to you guys so that you have it. So she's not going to be able to go through these in the next 3 minutes and explain what they are, but we'll supply you with this deck so you have this, because this will be helpful as you build out. Those of you who are competing, as you build out the strategy.
Perfect. Yep. So you will have this deck. So you'll have all the information because we're not going to be able to get through it all very quickly. But number one, you need to identify what the objective is. Is your objective to get sales online? Is your objective to drive brand awareness of something? And the next is you want to confirm what that specific KPI is. So if I was Patagonia, my goal on my website is to convert customers to get sales. But more specifically, my KPI is I need each customer to come in with a 2 times ROAS, meaning I will give Pinterest $1 if they give me $2 back worth of sales or more. So very specific according to their objective is that detailed goal. And then implementation. How are we going to get there? Are we going to show video or a static ad? What will be the call to action on that ad? And that's all decided in this funnel. And then the targeting and audiences. So there's 2 sides of Pinterest that make it great. The first is interests, which we spoke about earlier. Those interests are very personal to someone. It's what they've shown as how they want to be inspired, what drives them in their life. And we can show that through the home feed. So if you've been on Pinterest, right when you get to the app, you can scroll through that home feed. And that's where I can spend hours and hours and hours because I can just be inspired. The next is keyword. So this is our search functionality, where when I'm a little bit more familiar or I have an idea of what I'm searching for, I can go to the search function and actually type in keywords. And as a brand, you can actually bid on those keywords to serve in those searches. Additional targeting is you can go off of location. Device, so whether it's iPhone, iPad, Android, web, which is desktop, language, and gender. It's only women on Pinterest, right? Right? So there's a good mix. 70% are women, but men are on there as well.
70% in the US.
Ah, fair. Fair.
Other countries, it's about 50-50.
Nice. So 70% in the US, 50-50 across the world. So let's review the other options you have other than the interests in the home feed, and then the keywords. Our customer lists. So many companies have email addresses and lists of their customers. They can actually come to Pinterest and serve ads. So for example, Birchbox is a subscription makeup box. And they might have people that have come on this subscription and then turned off. Well, they can come to Pinterest and say, okay, let's give them another try and target those customers. With those lists, we can actually build act-like audiences, meaning of these emails that have purchased from your company before, we're going to see what other pinners have similar behavior who are likely to purchase the same thing and serve ads to them. We have engagement retargeting, meaning if someone has engaged with a pin before but hasn't purchased, you can retarget those people. So they're a little bit warmer because they've shown the intent. And then visitor retargeting. These are people who've actually been to the website of a company, and we can retarget them through Pinterest. So interests and keywords, where does that land as far as the funnel? Is it upper, middle, or lower? Where is it? Very perfect. So especially keywords, they're searching, they're trying to get ideas, interests. It's we're trying to inspire them. What about engagement retargeting? Where's that one? Where's engagement? Yep. They've already engaged, so it's engagement retargeting and then visitor retargeting. Yep, they're already familiar. Perfect. And act like. Where does act like land? Yay! Good job. Perfect. So somewhere in the middle. Yep. Because we're bringing in keywords. We have those interests. We have retargeting to take care of getting those purchases. But act like they could be warm. They're similar practices. Perfect. So now the proposal.
Okay, so just kind of recapping, we gave you the very, very broad overview in some of these principles. The thing about digital marketing is that, there used to be this saying in the ad business that 50% of my advertising budget is working really well. I just don't know which 50%. So when you put up a billboard, you put up 10 billboards and run, 15 newspaper print ads, your sales go up. Maybe it was because of that, or maybe the weather just got warmer, or maybe a lot of new people just moved. You don't know. When digital marketing came along, that changed dramatically. And now advertisers have a significant amount of insight into how their ad dollars are performing by platform, by audience, all of those sort of things. And especially for us, because we work with small and medium businesses who, if you say the word brand awareness to them, they kind of freak out because they just want $1 in to get $3 out, or whatever their goal is, like Camille was describing. So the thing, when you're thinking about working with actual real live marketers at companies, they're overwhelmingly performance-based thinkers. So they want to know, okay, I can afford to spend $10 to acquire a new customer. Where do I put my ad dollars where I can get that kind of return? And they're very data savvy. Most of our job is not actually like selling people. It's not like a, hey, how do I get you into some Pinterest ads today kind of an environment. Getting advertisers to advertise on Pinterest is actually quite easy. The heavy lifting is making it work and getting good performance. And in order to do that, you have to become an expert, which is like why we brought 2 experts up here that do it every day to answer your questions. So as you think about whether you're in the sales contest or just in the marketing world in general, each platform has its own place. And like when we talk to real live advertisers, we don't say, hey, you should stop advertising on Facebook and start advertising on Pinterest. Because we don't need to say that. Marketers are always looking for new profitable channels to market, to run ads on. And so they're hungry for something besides Facebook and Google. So it's like this massive duopoly that's been in the market until we came along. So I'm going to walk you through the template. So sorry for those of you who are not competing, that this part's going to be a little bit less relevant to you, but it only takes a minute. So this last year, we left this really open-ended, and while it was fine, the people competing, I think, spent too much time and energy on the format and not enough time and energy on the content. And so this year we did it a little differently, where we just created a template so that basically all of the proposals are similar in form, and it'll just be the content that's different. Oh, I gotta go. Yeah, that's right. It's easy to go down toggle. Okay, so instructions are pretty self-explanatory. So you're going to make a copy of this so that you're not editing the master, which you won't be able to. It's read-only. So you're going to make a copy, and then change all of the logos and all that stuff. Put the client logo here once you get the name of the client that you're going to be doing the case on, and all that stuff. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so we have it broken up into a few sections. This section is intended for you to basically make the pitch of why Pinterest, the narrative, kind of using some of the elements that we've talked to you about today, or other elements that you think about on your own. And we're going to ask that these are limited to 3 slides to keep the time consistent as well. Oh, yeah. Allie is very thorough. She made this, and she actually made the 3 blank slides for you. So here you're going to go through and just create one slide where you basically summarize your understanding of the client's objectives, which will be supplied to you in the RFP. Does everybody know what an RFP is? Request for proposal. Yep. So when a company's evaluating any kind of purchase, especially large purchases, they'll often issue what's called a request for a proposal, and that's intended to invite companies who could potentially supply them with whatever they're purchasing to come to them with a proposal. So that's what you're going to be doing. We're going to supply you with a RFP with some data in it and media brief, and then you're going to summarize and kind of put your own spin on how you interpret their objectives here. And then here we're going to have you make some mock-up pins of what you think the strategy would be. So what the meat here is like, what would be compelling? What would be compelling? What message would be compelling? What images would be compelling? How can that messages and the images in the actual creative strategy best leverage the unique principles of Pinterest as opposed to Facebook or Google? Right? Anything else I should add on that one?
I did link Canva. I don't know if any of you have utilized this, but it's an amazing tool, free for access to have an account.
So I'm going to have to repeat everything you say, so you want to just point out if I missed? Yeah, just Canva? Okay. So repeating that, Canva is a free tool, design tool that has preloaded templates, not the actual imagery, but has preloaded templates of the sizes and the imagery, and you can get images and stuff there. And it's free. So you're going to take the pins that you design and just put them in these 3 little mock phones. Got it? Again, the key thing, so like the header and the description, that all of this, the idea here is like, what story are you telling that you're telling this brand you think would be really compelling to pinners? Knowing that you're the Pinterest expert, which like, I know you're not, but you're pretending to be a Pinterest expert. Your job is to tell the brand what story they should tell on Pinterest that would be compelling to pinners. And why, by the way. Anything I missed? Okay. So this is the slide you're going to use to actually put in your recommended strategies, like targeting. One thing that some of the people from the last competition told me was really helpful was to convert a business account or convert one of your personal accounts into a business account, because then you can load up Ads Manager. This doesn't cost any money. You don't even have to put in your credit card when you do it. And you can't really tell on the profile, so it's not going to make your profile wonky. But convert at least one person on the team, convert your account to a business account, and then you can go into Ads Manager, which is our self-service ad tool, and you can see like all the targeting options that advertisers actually see, how they work. There's some sizing tools in there. You can see some kind of mock reporting, what kind of data is in there. So highly recommend that everybody spend some time in Ads Manager if you're competing. And then Ali has also linked you to this tool that we created that we call Share of Voice. And it's basically lets you tell an advertiser or prospective advertiser, if they, at different budget levels, here's how much of the Pinterest audience that they're targeting they'll reach. So you can put in keywords, you can put in interests, and then it will tell you, it'll basically tell you this is how much volume we have of that. And so if you advertiser want to reach 25% of that audience, or 100% or 50%, here's what the proposed budget would be. So you can use that tool to help you in the budget pitch part of the competition, which is right here. So this is just kind of the logistics of what you're proposing to the advertiser, when they should run it, and be as creative as you want there. Like you come up with a strategy that you don't think the advertiser would have even thought of, in terms of, we're going to run this kind of creative on these dates because of this, and this one on these dates because of the holidays. So when it comes to the flight dates, there's some stuff in the RFP in terms of the expectations there, but be creative with all of this stuff. And targeting, this would be what Camille was talking about: static pin, video pin, retargeting. Do we want to do an active-like audience, and why? That's the key thing, is why. You don't have to put why in here, but be prepared to talk about why. And then the bidding models, which is, so we have two ways to bid for ads, because all of Pinterest ads, same thing as Google, same thing as Facebook, they're all sold in an auction. So I don't know how much you guys get into in the marketing program, like the mechanics of these things, but really almost every ad you see on the internet was purchased and sold in an auction. So it's either the publisher has their own auction, which is just the big ones like us and Facebook and Google, or they're going through ad networks. So and when you set up a campaign, you have to determine how much and in what format you're going to bid as an advertiser. There's two ways to bid on Pinterest. There's more, but there's two that you need to care about. One is on a cost per click basis, which you'll hear that term CPC, and then the other is on a cost per 1,000 impressions basis. So that's called a CPM. So our traffic campaigns are a CPC bid model, and our awareness campaigns are a CPM bid model. You don't have to choose one. You could do both in your strategy. You can have a mix. We're going to run CPM awareness campaign against this creative and these dates or whatever, and a CPC to achieve this objective. The key, again, is just why. You just need to be able to articulate why. And then down here, we're going to tell them what we think their goals should be, right? So that would be like $10 cost per acquisition, or a $3 cost per 1,000 impressions, or a 2 times return on the ad spend, something like that. There'll be some guidance about their goals in the RFP, but again, feel free to, if you have some creative idea that doesn't fit that exactly and you have a good rationale, give it a whirl. This is where you would put the results of the share voice tool. And you'll have coaches, by the way. You'll have coaches, so you don't need to remember all this right now. Okay, that's it. So any questions for me before I turn it over to these two? You guys are going to have to share this thing. Huh? Oh, an appendix? Yeah. Should have just had Allie do this part. Yeah, so feel free to include any key facts that you want the prospective advertiser to know, but that you're not going to really cover in your presentation in the appendix. Allie put some in here for you. These are just examples. If you just, they would be fine, but if everybody just puts those in there, it's not going to help you, right? So be creative. Don't necessarily just use what she already gave you, but that's just an example of the kinds of things that might go in an appendix as a supplementary material for the RFP that you want the advertiser to consider, but you're not going to cover in the presentation. What? Go to Pinterest for Business? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if you're not the person who converts your Ads Manager account, well, even if you are, you can go to just Google Pinterest for Business, and the first return will be our Pinterest for Business page, which is like all of our resources for advertisers. And it's a really good resource for you to understand more about the platform as you're getting ready to make the pitch. Got it? Okay, cool. You're just going to sit down here?
I can do either. I'm really good at sitting.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, no, I took it off.
Just any questions, I guess, is what we're doing now.
So Ellie was on the winning team last year, and Logan went to Utah State, obviously. And they're both partner managers, right? They're both partner managers. Both partner managers. Ellie's on the agency team. Logan sells directly to advertisers. So whatever questions you have, it doesn't have to be about competition. Probably most of them wouldn't be. Just like these are actual people that went to your school that work in this industry and are very good at it. And if you have questions about the competition from the participant's perspective, then hopefully Ellie can supply you with some context there. Any questions?
So maybe Ellie, you can just kind of introduce the two of you.
Oh yeah, since you guys missed it. Sorry. Well, so I'm Ellie. I was competing last year here at Utah State, and our team won. We actually have a couple from the other team. The other members from my team, actually, Kent and Eric, were both in our team. So, good job, guys. And I'm a agency partner manager. Logan, do you want to introduce yourself to people who are elsewhere?
Yeah, and I work as a partner manager on the direct side. So as Brian said, I sell directly to advertisers that aren't yet with agencies.
If you guys don't ask any questions, then these guys will come hold this way. Do you want that on your content?
Carly's going to grill me. Yeah.
Yeah, how did you win?
I knew that was going to be the first question. How did I win? That's probably not a question for me. That'd be a question for people who judged me. But I think probably two things that I can share about that. Number one is that we were human when we were presenting. I think the kindest thing that Brian has ever said to me was that I was human. So basically, that like we weren't very showboaty. We weren't acting like car salesmen. We weren't like over the top. We were just talking human to human, presenting something that was a conversation, being pretty open with them, not making it too huge of a production. And then also elaborating on the Pinterest narrative. Kent actually came in with a really cool story about his daughter planning for her wedding. And I think that was a pretty huge piece of us taking the title there, because we were able to showcase like the personality behind it. We were showcasing like the audience. We were showcasing what people come to Pinterest for and like the value behind that. So I think that those were two of the biggest reasons of why I think we won. Do you have something to add to that? I know Camille was there judging also.
Yeah, so I judged the first round. I didn't judge the last round, but the other than the things you mentioned, what stood out to us is the thoughts that went into it. And while maybe the numbers weren't perfect and something that we would have pitched, it was they thought through everything as far as what should the pin look like? How does it make sense for that target audience? All the way through the keywords, and everything was connected. Where other teams, it was kind of bounced around, or it didn't connect. Everything in their presentation was thought through and very thorough. And frankly, they didn't even present all of it, but you could tell that they did their work.
So I'm not going to give you any extra tips, but except for just to reiterate what Ellie said, just like this is, at least as when I'm your judge, or these guys are your judges, because there'll be other people from MarketStar I think that will be judging that aren't in the Pinterest team. But when I'm your judge, I care way, way more about the content and like how you've thought through it and like the logic than I do about some like whole like show. So obviously you want the presentation to be really buttoned up in terms of, like Camille said, thorough and well thought through and creative. But the delivery, I just want you to have thought it through and be competent in discussing it. And that was the compliment to Ellie, which was like when she came out and kind of talked about their strategy, it was very conversational. There wasn't a whole big, song and dance. And some of them were very much like performances. So don't think of it like a performance. Think of it like a real business presentation where you're really focused on being really expert in the content you're delivering.
Cool.
Just to add to that from previous case competitions that we've seen, if you don't have good content and good strategic thought flow behind it, I'm yelling loud enough, they can hear me. If you don't have enough content and good strategic thought, the show is going to pull you over the top. So focus on the content, because that's what wins. Yeah. The idea's got to be there.
Hey, Eric.
Brian mentioned that selling to customers isn't hard. People are always looking for ad channels. So what kind of objections do you see as common?
I prepared for two questions. I knew it would be that first one and this one. So Eric asked pretty much what like the most common objections that we see from people that we're trying to sell to. And like Brian said, like the selling part of it isn't the most difficult piece. It's trying to tell people why they should be always on, why they should be doing the full funnel. So the biggest thing that I see, I'll let you answer for your people, because direct is a little bit different than agency, but agencies sometimes don't understand Pinterest as the narrative. So like they either don't understand that their audience is there, they don't understand that it's a buying platform, so they think that it's only brand awareness driving, things like that. So most of it's just telling them, that the audience is there for them, telling them the verticals on Pinterest, telling them the behavior on Pinterest, and then telling them why it's important to implement the full funnel. Otherwise, like Brian mentioned also, like they're just going to be doing brand awareness campaigns because they think that that's its main driver. And that would be like putting something like a billboard up and not knowing how effective that's going to be unless you do some sort of a brand lift study. So they eventually turn off or they don't find the value in it. They want that return on their investment, so they need to implement the full funnel. So more often than not, it's just that they don't understand Pinterest and how people use it.
just hold it. I'm also very good at sitting. Another one that you'll see a lot on the direct side is there will be advertisers that advertise on other platforms already and know what they're seeing and they like it and they stay glued to it. A lot of times attribution windows will be different on those platforms. So you can give this really great like strategy based around Pinterest being like kind of, as Brian showed the slide earlier, like the place where people go to plan way in advance. And sometimes advertisers will hear that as, we got to be spending every day for like a month before we're going to see anything. And you need to find a way to kind of talk your way through like the value that Pinterest adds to that brand, even as people are planning and forming their buying habits.
John.
So you guys have talked a lot about how some of the objections you're going to feel like are just like telling the narrative or the story, or like helping the potential buyer understand the process that Pinterest is. Like, what are some ways that you guys have found that have been successful at telling that story and that narrative?
Repeat the question.
Okay, so the question, if I'm understanding it right, is basically like examples of like when we face some of these objections and how we went around it.
Well, like, for example, you guys spent almost an hour showing all this amazing stuff that Pinterest can do.
Okay.
I'm assuming you don't have an hour to sit down with every single person you talk to outline the story and narrative of Pinterest. Is that a fair assumption?
Sure. Okay, so as far as getting the Pinterest narrative across in like a clear and concise way to partners, a lot of that will go into your preparation. So if I have a call, I might have 20 minutes to get from someone not even knowing how to pin something to a board to be talking to someone about launching an always-on campaign. So preparation going into like vertical specific stats. Pinterest is very open about the sort of things that are popular on Pinterest. Like the verticals are not hard to define. Like it's a big food vertical, it's a big fashion vertical. Like there are always ways to talk to partners about how they can win on Pinterest. And if you're prepared for that, then it becomes less of a sales call and more of a strategy call. And it's you going prepared with, like, this is how we would go about it creatively and targeting wise in order to win on Pinterest, instead of simply asking them for money because Pinterest is great.
All right. Any other questions before I just quickly wrap up? Because I know you guys have some other discussion to have at 4. Any other questions for these guys? Okay. So I'm just going to, this is just the shameless part, sorry, Sterling. So last year, so MarketStar is not traditionally done really well at recruiting from this school. Probably the distance is a big part of it from Logan to Ogden. We had, I think, 1 or 2 people that graduated from here before the sales competition, and we hired like 10 people last year from USU, and they've been great. So, part of the reason we do this, the main reason we do this, is as a recruiting tool, obviously. So we're not trying to get you guys to buy ads on Pinterest. That's not why we're spending money and time and all of this to run the sales competition. And we're also not a charity, so it's just shamelessly because we have had such good success with graduates specifically from this school that that's why we wanted to do it again this year. That's why Pinterest is willing to pay half of it, even though this is a recruiting effort for MarketStar. So my point there is that for those of you who are in the competition or coming to any of the other like kind of peripheral events or whatever, I would strongly encourage you, even if you're not interested right now in like this industry, I would strongly encourage you to go out of your way to make connections with some of the people from the team, because that's how these opportunities kind of generate, right? It's like you make a connection with somebody. Like we were ready to hire Ellie before she even applied. So her interview was terrible, by the way. It's a horrible interview. So it was terrible. It was so bad. It was so bad. It was so bad. But like we already knew her. We'd already spent a bunch of time chatting when we were up here. We saw her in the competition. So like we felt very comfortable hiring her, even with her terrible interview. So that's the power of making that connection, right? And like not only when in the conversations, but in the competition, like we get to see the way that you interact with something like this before you even interview, and it can really help. Jocelyn, too, was not a particularly good interview. Like, she'll tell you, too. She was, like, a little all over the map, too, but, like, we got to know her from the competition, and so she, like, immediately came in with the benefit of the doubt, and both of them are great. Both of them were great hires. So, like, that strategy was validated with all the people that we hired last year who are now selling Pinterest and are amazing. I mean, I'm telling you, this school in particular has produced some really high quality people on our team. So that's my shameless plug.
So I think we're ready, right, to compete. And for those that are not competing as part of the competition, with the case competition, there is the speed selling event. And so just for all of those that are out there on Aggie Webcast or watching this via recording, but also to our students here at Utah State University, there's an opportunity to interact with these professionals as well as others in a speed selling. And so please take advantage of that opportunity. We're so very grateful to have Pinterest as one of our partners, to being the leading sponsor of this event. Let's thank Pinterest.